This is Straight Talk with Atlanta Greg Fann, the Preacher Man, and his sidekick Shanan Jones. Frank discussions of issues affecting the ATL, Fulton County, the state of Georgia, the nation, and around the world. And now, here they are, live and in living color, the team of Jones and Fann, the Preacher Man.
Well, welcome to today's Straight Talk with yours truly, Greg Fann, the Preacher Man. Let me put the cap on today. Listen, this is going to be an exciting program today. We had faith and labor on last week, talking about the labor and faith working together and the need for faith and labor working together. This week we're going to be back on Mr. Trump and his shenanigans to try to keep the Justice Department from moving forward on the evidence that they received at his home in Florida. So we're going to talk about that, whether or not, and we want to hear from you, whether or not Mr. Trump should be indicted or not be indicted. Is he above the law or is he not above the law? Hey, I want to hear from you today. We're going to be back. Don't touch that dial. We'll be back right here with Straight Talk with yours truly, Greg Fann, the Preacher Man, and Shanan E. Jones.
Hi, Miss C here with your 3-minute news blast. Listen, the women of Flipper Temple AME Church is celebrating Women's Day, September 25th at 10:45 a.m. And I tell you, it's going to be a grand day. The guest speaker is Dr. Amy Davis. She's newly elected president of Turner Theological Seminary. And you can join us here in the sanctuary, or you can go virtual and look at us on YouTube, and you can go to our website, flippertempleamechurch.com. Call the church if you need more information at 404-522-5020. Reverend Gregory Eason is pastor. Let the Preacher Sing will be held at Central Holiness Church of Deliverance at 1069 Washington Street in Southwest Atlanta. On program will be Reverend Thomas Ashford, Bishop J.D. Means, Reverend Robert Welch, Lonnie Kelly, and Simply Blessed. Headlining will be Skylar Patterson and Predestined, along with God's Foundation, Larry Berkeley on harmonica. That's going to be grand. You've got all those preachers there singing. Wow. Listen, if you need more information, find out how you can attend, call 678-994-1663. That's 678-994-1663. You know, it's good to get out and exercise and walk. And you can go and walk and have a great time in a picturesque setting. And you try walking and exercising at the Cascade Springs Nature Preserve, 2852 Cascade Road in Southwest Atlanta. Over 100 acres of forested trails. My church members tell me it's so beautiful to walk there. You can hike, walk, and even enjoy the natural beauty of the preserve. Want to take a look? You can go online to www.historiccascadeheights.com and just click on the little icon that says Cascade Springs Nature Preserve. You can call them at 770-765-6641. Now listen, if you would like for us to announce your event, just send it to us at straighttalknews1362@gmail.com. That's straighttalknews1362@gmail.com. And listen, before we go, I'd like for you to do 4 things. Subscribe. Like us. They're right there on the front of your screen. Go ahead if you haven't already pushed it. And then the 3rd thing is to leave a comment. And the 4th thing is to share this broadcast. We would appreciate it. And we're going to see you next time, right back here on Straight Talk News with Greg Fann, the Preacher Man, and Pastor Shanan Jones.
Well, let's begin with a key and fast approaching deadline for the Justice Department following the FBI's search of former President Donald Trump's Mar-a-Lago home and club. The DOJ must decide by midnight tomorrow whether to accept Judge Aileen Cannon's ruling approving the request by Trump's attorneys for a special master to review the documents seized from his Florida club last month. The New York Times reports that Justice Department officials are expected to oppose the judge's decision, but the paper points out that any appeal would be difficult as the 11th Circuit Court of Appeals is under a conservative majority. The consensus right now appears to be that Judge Cannon's ruling is more likely to delay than derail the investigation into Trump's possession of highly classified documents belonging to the government.
Meanwhile, former Attorney General under President Trump, Bill Barr, is at it again, speaking yesterday on Fox News, saying he hopes the DOJ appeals Judge Cannon's ruling. Barr also weighed in on whether he thinks the Justice Department ultimately will indict former President Trump.
The problem I have with the special master is what she's done on what's called executive privilege documents. And she didn't address the only question that's in dispute, which is, can the former president have standing to say that the investigators don't even get to look at the documents, the classified documents that he wrongfully had at Mar-a-Lago? And that's the only question. And she dodges it. And then she says that she's bringing in a special master to look at whether stuff is executive privilege or not. That's not where the dispute is. I mean, if the government came today and said, we'll stipulate that everything that's deliberative there, whether it's classified or not, would ordinarily be subject to executive privilege, it begs the question. That's not what the issue is. That's why I think it was that opinion was a mistake.
So you think it'll be appealed and overruled? Is the
I hope it's appealed.
You believe it?
Yeah.
Do you have a view on how it ends?
Yeah. I think, as I've said all along, there are two questions. Will the government be able to make out a technical case? Will they have evidence by which that they could indict somebody on, including him? And that's the first question, and I think they're getting very close to that point, frankly. But I think at the end of the day, there's another question: is do you indict a former president? What will that do to the country? What kind of precedent will that set? Will the people really understand that this is not, failing to return a library book, that this was serious? And so you have to worry about those things. And I hope that those kinds of factors will incline the administration not to indict him, because I don't want to see him indicted as a former president. But I also think they'll be under a lot of pressure to indict him. Because, one question is, look, if anyone else would have gotten indicted, why not indict him?
Well, we're back, and here he is, Shanan E. Jones. Hey, Shanan, listen, this whole thing, we've been talking about this January 6th insurrection.
Yes.
Mr. Trump Georgia, there's a case in Georgia, there was a case in New York, right? And these are cases where people have said that Mr. Trump has violated and broke the law, right? Okay, so now, we know in New York, one of the district attorneys bailed out and said, they weren't going to indict him, right? Then now we have one that still is trying to pursue civil charges against Mr. Trump, right? And we have the case here in Georgia with DA Fann Willis, right? And so now, looking at the Joe's Morning Show, we showed clips of the morning show with Joe, and so. As you saw those clips, there was some discussion in terms of whether or not Mr. Barr was saying, well, yeah, he maybe should be indicted, but I don't know, he's a former, Attorney General, right? He said, well, I don't know if he ought to be indicted. I mean, I know he did do the crime, but I don't know if it's going to look good on the country in terms of indicting a former president, right? And what it would do to future presidents if they then too will be indicted. That's the debate, right? So you said precedent, but you said precedent either way. I mean, because if you don't indict him, and he did invite and he committed crime,
You have a series of corrupt presidents
or corrupt people,
publicly known corrupt president. Because
Well,
we've had corrupt presidents.
Right,
I'm sure.
I'm sure too. I'm sure. There's no doubt about it. Even when they was doing the Constitution, we had a corrupt president. I mean,
Sure, there had to be some boogie woogie somewhere.
somewhere. So, but let's just look at this. Play the pros and cons. What's the benefit of this special master that the judge Cohen has said that she is going to allow for them to have a special master?
I think it's just a play by Trump.
Okay.
In other words, I think Trump has moved off checkers to Trump and is playing chess. And I think it's just a move. And while we're dealing with that move, we don't even want to talk about what's happening with Steve Bannon this week.
Right.
For bilking the people out of $1 million, telling them that they're going to get a brick with their name on it, and they building the wall out of steel. I'm just saying.
More corruption, more lies, more corruption.
Yeah.
Okay.
But let's stay where we are.
Well, but let's just stay right here with the fact that how can we say to anyone that you're not above the law? How can we say it to a state senator or a U.S. senator or a U.S. congressperson or a U.S. Or a local congressperson, a local senator, a local legislator, a local council person, a local mayor? How can we say to them that they can go to jail if they're indicted for creating or violating the law?
Let me not defend.
Okay.
Let's dialogue.
Let's dialogue.
The state senator
Right.
does not have federal executive power.
Okay.
And Trump no longer has it.
That's the point.
He no longer has
Right.
it.
Okay.
But he held it.
Okay.
And I think, well, let me not say what I think. Let me just stay with the fact of what Trump had as president.
Before you get through, you'll be telling me what you
Before I preach my sermon. But so I think there's a difference there. I think we could go back to 1973, 74, when Nixon made the statement that paraphrasing, that by the nature of the president doing it, if the president does it, then it's not a crime, right? So that was the thinking of this Nixon party and this Nixon machine. Basically, a lot of those old stalwarts from Nixon days, have come back to be consultants in Trump's administration.
Okay.
Indirectly, directly.
Yeah, but
Roger.
then let me just say this. I know you're Roger the hell, but let me just say this, because one of the things that he said on the program is that, as you mentioned, Nixon, and he was saying, and Joe was saying that Ford, he pardoned Nixon, right? He pardoned Nixon before he got to be president. As soon as he got to be president, he pardoned Nixon because the deal to do away with the Watergate scandal, right? So Nixon received a pardon, but he did commit a criminal act, right? He did commit a criminal act, but he was pardoned by the then sitting president.
Right.
Okay, so when you talk about corruption, we've had corrupt president before. We have.
Right.
But the reality of it is that because of the way the system is, that a sitting president can pardon not only a former president, but they can pardon people in general, right?
They can.
Okay.
They can.
So, but this is a totally different case. Because Biden is not in no way in his stretch of imagination looking to pardon Nixon, even if not Nixon, but Trump, if he is indicted.
Right. But Biden doesn't want the precedence of being of an indicted president, because he don't want someone going in there cherry picking something that we don't know about Biden or Clinton or anybody else, that someone can go and pull up and say, we're going to make a case out of this.
Sure.
When we were children, right? I I was a child.
When you was well, you know, so
It's different time. When we were at one point we were boys.
okay, right.
And you had friends, and you all would conspire.
Right.
Well, let me put it on. I don't know. Y'all was church boys.
Let me put my hat on behind that. Let me put my hat back on behind that because I see right now we got to do some straight talking.
Okay, so you would conspire.
Yes.
Okay. Now, when you conspired to do what you knew was not going to be right, the first question you asked when you said, "Well, who we going to conspire with?" was who can come and who cannot come.
Right.
And the reason why generally the person that couldn't come was because of what?
Because they weren't in with the in crowd, and they would not fit into whatever we were finna do.
And they talk.
They talk too much.
Okay.
You're talking about somebody we know, right?
Okay. So now let's look at America.
Okay.
In the world.
Okay.
America has conspired to do some stuff.
Okay.
On the world stage.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
And I think that we know that that if we can say that there's dirt in the Vatican, then we know there's dirt in Washington.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So you got a guy that is technically in the club of presidents, but he didn't come to the inauguration. He did not say that this was a legitimate president. He bucked the whole system.
Right.
So he has shown that he could be an absolute wild card.
Right.
Do you know what Donald Trump knows about this country? Do you want to indict him? Now I understand nobody's above the law. That's what they tell the Aborigines. That's what they tell us. But there's some folk that have done some things representing America on the global stage that has been to the left of the law for the United States and the left of the law in terms of the United Nations and the accords that govern how nations are supposed to deal. You got a Donald Trump that will tell secrets if you take this man and push him up against the wall. And he has in this country what Tom Rick says is 20%, but I believe it might be a little bit more than that. He has a militia in this country that's in the military, that's in the Secret Service, that's in the ATF, that's in the FBI. And I'm not quite sure that they are willing to move. Now, me and you, we would indict him.
Right.
We would indict him bigger than crack.
Right.
Okay. All right. But I'm not quite sure that outside of the conversation around all of this and the politicization of this, I'm not quite sure there's that. I think it's a whole lot of there, but I don't think that they really want to move forward with that.
You know, we have really a problem here. You know, that old slang is that we have a failure to communicate. Mm-hmm. We got double standards here, and we're looking at double standards. And
what's the double standard? The
double standard is if you're the president, then you can do what you want to do. Then so be it.
What president hasn't?
If it's a double standard.
Okay, but what president has?
I'm saying that's a double standard.
Okay.
Then I said that's a double standard.
Okay.
Then I said it was a double standard.
Okay.
It's a double standard. So once you're elected as president of the United States, you can do whatever you want to do, and you don't worry about the repercussion, because there is no repercussion if you're the president of the United States. But you have to be in that office in order to receive that privilege. Even after you're out of that office, based on what you're concluding is, even after you're out of that office, executive privilege, you still hold executive privileges, even though you not still hold.
You don't have executive privilege anymore.
But you still do. You still do, according to the way things are going now.
Why do they keep Secret Service?
Well, that's what I'm saying.
And not former vice president.
I'm saying you still have executive privileges, and this is what I'm alluding to. Here is that we have a president, now president, we can't do nothing with. We don't know whether or not whether he's indicted or not indicted, whether or not he would still share secrets that he have with whomever.
Did you hear what I asked you?
What?
Why do they keep Secret Service on former presidents and not former vice president?
Why do they keep them? I don't know.
I mean, the vice president knows a lot,
Right,
right?
right,
He has a security clearance.
right.
He's been in meetings.
He has.
If they grab a vice president, if they grab a vice president from, if they grab Gore, what type of information could they get? Now, they still get intelligence reports. The presidents do.
Right.
But it's not the same to the same level.
Right.
Right? But if they grabbed Biden before he was president, when he was, running.
Vice president.
When he was, former vice president.
Right.
Right? Because Secret Service stops on that.
Right.
Why did they keep the Secret Service on the president and not on a former vice president?
And that I don't know.
Okay. So it's probably not because of the information that they have, because a whole lot of people who used to have security protection
Don't have secret
when they don't
service.
have it anymore, like they can grab a former Homeland Security,
Right.
they can grab a former Homeland Security director
Right.
and get a whole lot of information.
Sure.
It's the mere fact of the front office is who the president and former president, who that person represents.
Okay.
If that person is a kind of a flag within itself for the United States of America, and you've only had 45 of them in 46 of them in the history of this nation.
Okay.
I don't think they would want to take that flag and indict it.
Well, let me just
Even
say,
under your notion of a double standard,
right, it's a double standard.
even under your notion of a double
It is,
standard,
it
I
is.
think that it's who the appearance of who the president is and what the country is. And I think in a very pragmatic way, they don't want to tear down the imagery of that flag.
And I understand that, but the reality of it is we're setting a precedent, because what we say to the next person that's president, do what you want to do and don't worry about it, because there will be no retribution for your action. You can call the Secretary of State of Georgia, the Secretary of State of any state, and tell them to find you your vote so that you can win your election, and nothing will happen to you, because you are the flagship of this country. So you can do whatever you want to do, and we're not going to prosecute you. We're not going to deal with you, because you have held the highest office.
And why won't they prosecute?
Because based on your analysis of is that because he has held the highest office, he's the standard bearer for the country.
Something else is, I want you to remember that I said too.
Okay.
Remember when we were boys?
Yeah.
When we conspired?
Oh yeah. We said he got secret. He can tell secrets. Okay. Yeah, he can tell secrets.
When you say that the president, there's a double standard of the president, there's a double standard for the government of the United States of America. The government of the United States of America doesn't answer for the laws that it breaks against its citizens and what they've broken in the world,
Right.
which is why they have enemies around the world that want to blow this country out.
Well, let's go back to this, because we're getting ready.
Well,
to
we
start
on
right
this.
now. Yeah, we on this. We're gonna be on this. Yeah,
They
but-
can't conspire, because if they hold him to the law,
Right.
he can turn around now and say, okay, well, I'm gonna hold you to the law. You did X, Y. Well, Mr. President, we don't talk about that. That's classified.
Yeah, but
no, we're gonna unclassify.
Well, let me just say this: as we're talking about classified and unclassified and information, we have to be very, very careful, because we're at a very pivotal point in terms of America, this country. Really, we have to either we're going to be a country of law, or we'll be a country of lawlessness. We have to determine and decide that, even though, as you have alluded to, about 20% of the white nationalists, Tom Ricks Act, right? That you concluded that because that we see an upsurging of the Ku Klux Klan. They call them the white nationalists, but they're the Ku Klux Klan. But I'm just saying, and militia, and all that. But I'm just saying is, let's just be clear in terms of the country. What's at stake? It is our democracy is at stake. He can talk whether even if they do not indict him, he still has the same information and he still can do the talk because he has men on the inside and he knows the inside game. So to stop to say that he ain't going to talk if they don't indict him, I don't agree with that. Because the man that we see, he doesn't care anything about anybody. He doesn't care anything about anybody. He just do what he wants to do, and he's going to continue. And his family is saying that about him. He do what he wants to do, and the heck with everybody else. So does he really care about America anyway? Does he really care about this country and what this country stands for? Even those things that you talked about, the secrets and the things that have taken place that we don't know anything really about, right? We don't know anything about. But the reality of it is that is he going to keep his mouth shut? Now I'm going to say it just as blunt, this great talk. Is he going to keep his mouth shut even if they do not indict him? Is he going to keep his mouth shut?
Well, I think it's to his benefit. That's his trump card. Is that they allowed the Cookie Monster to get in the cookies. Okay? And so now that the Cookie Monster been in the cookies, now you want to put the Cookie Monster out the cookies. The Cookie Monster want to take some cookies with him. And they said, you can't take these cookies with you. But you knew I was a Cookie Monster when you put me in the cookie jar. So bottom line is we'll agree, not me and you, but here in America, there will be an agreement eventually. I believe there'll be an agreement to disagree on this. And this will always be an issue, like Watergate was an issue. And some folks might fall for this. You know, you might see one or two folks, you know, go down in the wake of this, and there might be some deals cut because there might be a conversation that says somebody has to pay for this. But the reason why they have things, look, a man commits adultery on his wife, right? Okay, that's classified.
Okay.
Like you don't want somebody put on the billboard if you are one of these brothers that are out here committing adultery against your lovely wife. You don't want somebody to put on the billboard that you are committing adultery in room 703 on Thursday at this place. So we are not going to talk about that because that is a classified issue. Things that are classified for a reason. And it ain't always that they don't want someone on the external. Sometimes you don't want folk inside to see what's really going on. And he's seen that stuff. And he knows that.
But I think we keep coming at the point. I don't disagree with that. But the point that I'm saying is, and then we're asking our audience, we want to hear from you. Make comments today.
How far will he go?
Yeah, I mean, what should he be indicted or not be indicted?
Yes, he should be indicted.
Okay, but the question here is, do we set the precedent by allowing him not to be indicted, or do we set is it better having a precedent to have him indicted?
You asking them that?
I'm asking the audience. to give us your opinion on it in terms of what you feel in terms of this situation. You know, we spent millions and millions of dollars. Let's just be honest, with millions of dollars doing this investigation, the January 6th committee, all these things that we're doing, even here in Georgia, the money we're spending about this case, New York, the money they're spending about this case. Do we just let it drop? Do we just let it slide? Do we just let it go because he has information that he may reveal if he is indicted? Do we know if he's not going to reveal that information if he's not indicted? He's like a big kid. He's like a big kid. He's going to tell you, talk about the kids that we didn't want with us because they were going to tell it. Do you think that he ain't going to tell it? I mean, really, at some point, he's going to tell it if there's something to be told.
No, I don't think he's going to tell it.
Okay.
I don't think he would tell it because he'd been on the inside and he knows the capabilities that are there for people that would tell it.
Well, obviously,
but if you put him his back against the wall,
okay,
and you want to tear down his empire,
right?
Then then you coming to kill me anyway.
Well,
You coming to take me out anyway.
It's empire.
Which is what he's saying, basically, is they're trying to destroy me.
Well,
and that's what the folks are saying. That's what the MAGA people are saying. You're trying to destroy me.
Well, that's the 20% that you're talking about, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
so,
no, quote unquote. Because
Yeah.
they're black folk in the MAGA.
Right, but
they're not 20% of the white nationals.
Okay.
So I think it's more than that.
Okay.
But that encompasses the 20%.
Okay, but let me just say this. And we get ready to end this discussion.
We just have a straight talk.
I know it's straight talk. We can talk about this all day long,
Yeah.
and we can talk about this. We can talk. We're gonna be like Herschel Walker. We can talk about this.
Yeah, we can talk about it.
so what we're gonna say here is that we want to hear your opinion. We want to hear what you have to say. Do you think that he will speak, tell it, won't tell it? Do you think he should be indicted, not indicted? We want to hear from you. We want to know what you think about this situation with the former president, Donald J. Trump. Now we have committed to you.
Can I ask you a question?
Wait a minute. We've committed to you.
Committed.
Yeah, we have committed to you that we're going to stay on this topic
Yes.
until some conclusion to it. And we have not gotten off of this topic. We want to hear from you.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Did Colin Powell lie when he went in front of the United Nations to say that the uranium and all of that
That it wasn't. And of course they found out later that it wasn't.
Did he not know that when he went there? And George Tenet, the CIA director, and all of them were sitting there and they were talking, conspiring. Did he tell a lie?
According to the fact came out, it wasn't nothing there. According
Did
to
he
what
know
he said,
that when he went to say that?
I can't say what the man knew. I can only say what he said and what they found
Trump
out.
can say what he knew.
Okay,
You see what I'm saying?
sure. I hear what you're saying. I mean, he can say,
Trump can say what he knew.
but I'm just telling you. You see, we're saying this. You saying what you're saying. I'm
And the
saying what I'm
question
saying.
is it? And I'm trying to show you that you asked about double standard. I'm trying to point out. This is what Shannon's trying to point out.
Sure.
The hypocrisy of this.
Well,
The hypocrisy of it.
Well, there's much hypocrisy in government. Period. Let's just be honest with that. There's much when we have.
Worth it if you got a bunch of rascals with a lot of information, and if you declassified some stuff that is classified, and they keep declassifying it. I mean, keep classifying it so it doesn't get declassified. If you got some rascals out here that if their stuff was exposed, it could bring the house, because the nation, you're absolutely right, we're teetering on a fault line right now.
We are, absolutely.
Okay? So is it really worth it for the House that they move forward? This is their thinking, that they move forward and say, well, this is what we learned in the Boy Scouts.
But
This is what we learned in civics, 7th grade civics. This is what we learned. But there's so much that you didn't learn in the Boy Scouts and in civics about this country.
Right.
So yeah, my country, tears of thee, sweet land of liberty. Yeah, that. But there's some other stuff too, like Colin Powell going to lie in front of the United Nations about a country doing something when they going after. And the reason why they didn't attack. Why didn't they attack Saudi? 15 Saudis attacked the United States of America. 15 of them. They didn't drop a bomb on Saudi Arabia. Trump can tell you why.
Let me tell you something.
You understand?
I hear what you're saying.
I don't know nothing, and I got you thinking.
No. But
Trump knows something.
But let me just say this to you, and I'm gonna say this to the
I'm
audience
talking
too.
straight talking.
He's talking straight talking. I am too. The issue here is simply this: if we're going to be a country, and if we are going to be a country of laws and not lawlessness, we have to determine which side are we on in terms of should he not be indicted? Should he go on with his life? Should he be able to run for president again? These are factors that we got to really consider. You know, if they said we're not going to indict him, but he can no longer run for president of the United States, will that shut his mouth? I mean, come on now. So I mean, there are real things that we have to consider in looking at this. And you know, we're just on a slippery slope now as a country. We really are. But we want to hear from you. We've heard from Shanan. Now we want to hear from you. I want to know what your opinion is. What you think? What you feel? Give us a comment in the comment section, and we'd appreciate it very much. Hey, this ain't nothing but what? Straight talk.
Want to be a guest on Straight Talk? Email Greg Fann at FANN922@Comcast.net or call 404-308-0795. Join us again for another episode of Straight Talk with Shanan Jones and Greg Fann, the Preacher Man.